Lego sales up 10% over the year, and the toy maker has now quadrupled in size over the past decade. Joining me is the Chief Executive, Jørgen Vik Knudstrup, live from Billund in Denmark. Jørgen, good to see you again. It's hard to pick holes in these numbers, but sales are slowing. Will we ever see the lofty 20-25% growth rates again?
It's possible, but of course, as you mentioned yourself, the company has quadrupled in size, and our strategy is one of purely organic growth. And therefore, I think as the company is becoming a very large part of the global toy market, it's very natural, obviously, that the growth rates are coming down to a more sustainable level, such as the one we're achieving here.
Sure. Single digits in the UK, the US and Northern Europe. Is that a little bit disappointing? Do you want to get those to double?
No, I'm very satisfied with the development in Northern Europe and also in the US, because we are seeing very strong growth on the basis of having a very highly penetrated presence. So we're very satisfied with the result, and we know we're gaining share in all of those geographies as well. And of course, remember the obvious thing that, you know, a strong single-digit growth rate of a very large business is much more attractive than a very high growth rate on a very small emerging market.
Sure. I want to talk about the movie. I see Emmett behind you. Let me ask you first, using this from the movie, what's the biggest threat to Lego? Who's the Lord business for Lego out there?
Well, I think we like to probably see ourselves mostly as the Emmets, all of us, you know, people who can sometimes get stuck in conformity, but with help from good friends and good colleagues, we become very creative.
Were you surprised by the huge success so far of this film, and when are we going to see this in the bottom line?
Well, it's far too early to comment on how it impacts our business. We'll hopefully be able to see some effect, but we'll be able to report on that later. But certainly, I think the phenomenal reception at the box office has surprised us. We knew it would be a big thing because it's the first time ever, but we are so pleasantly surprised to see how well it has been received, because you see, I think it's also a very original script. And sometimes when you bring out something that is like that, it becomes a little bit more unpredictable how it will be received by its audiences worldwide.
Sure. You and I have talked about the franchise deals in the past, and we've talked about Friends and architecture. I know that was quite close to your heart. What comes next in this space? What do we need to see next?
Yeah, well, that is something I'd like to reveal when I know more about it. But of course, this year we have the Lego Ultra Agents, which is a phenomenal theme and really leverages digital technology. And then we're carrying on with the Lego Legends of Chima, which is very, very successful with the kids right now, in addition to Lego Friends.
You know, talking about the kids, and I've spoken to your CFO about this before. This mix between physical play and digital play. What is can we expect to see Lego do more in the digital space?
Yes, I think the digital world is so important, and Lego, of course, is already the Lego video games, some of the best-selling video games to kids worldwide. And I think being very present on YouTube and other media is incredibly important. I think the kids hardly distinguish between a digital world and a physical world. So you will see us, for all of our major themes, that we blend these worlds across a number of platforms. But you will not see us being a game developer in our own right. We will do this in partnerships with great partners such as Warner Interactive. All
right, talking of kids, I had my kids in earlier. I have a 6-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and they both had questions for you. And this is the first question from my son, Oscar.
I don't get much pocket money. Why is Lego so expensive?
Yes, well, the answer is that Lego is a high-quality premium brand, and so, yes, it is taking some dent in the pocket money, but it has the most play hours per dollar you spend on it, so that's how these things come together.
All right, and here are a couple of questions from my daughter, Edie. This is the first one.
How many Lego bricks do you make every year?
Sorry, how
many Lego bits do you make every year, she asks?
How many pieces? We make in excess of 50 billion pieces a year.
50 billion pieces. And a final question from Edie coming now.
What's your favourite Lego?
Sorry again?
Your favorite Lego?
My favorite Lego would be Lego Creator, which are the sets where you build houses, cars, planes and buildings, and you can build several different models out of the same box.
Okay, and just to finish up, I want to come back to the price issue that Oscar was asking about. How do you monitor this? How do you set prices? And what is it based on? Is it the durability of a product, that it can be broken up and built again and again and again? How do you justify it?
Well, we obviously have a pricing strategy depending on the market, so we look at how we can achieve penetration. Do we have products that are relevant at pocket money range? Do we have products that are relevant at birthday giving, parents' birthday gifts, friends' birthday gift, and Christmas giving? So we have a pretty broad price range, including some very high price points that are targeting the hobby fan and the very serious collectors and so on. So we really offer a commercially very broad range, and I would say the prices are of course looking into what is our cost of bringing the product to market, but it's really a market-based price that depends on the specific circumstances in the market and the value we feel the product can demand.
Okay, Jürgen, many thanks for talking to all of us today. Jürgen Vik Knudstorp, that is it from me. In fact, that's it from all of the Throwfuls. This is Reuters.